Hey, welcome back. This is another edition of Pages Promotions. We're doing a special author event tonight with a really awesome author, J.A. Bullen. I know him as Jacob because he's a friend. You may know him as Jacob, but tonight you're going to learn all about him as an amazing fantasy author, J.A. Bullen. Tonight we're doing something really fun. Tonight we're doing a cover reveal launch event. So this is the first time publicly that Jacob's going to be showing us the cover to his new book, The Brothers Stryfe. And I was so honored to work with Jacob on this book and bringing it to press. It was such an absolute delight. Once you guys read it, you're going to be hooked and you're not going to be able to put down the series. So we're going to talk about that tonight, have a little bit of reading, and just give away some prizes and just kind of have a fun time. For those of you who may be watching us on YouTube for the first time, Pages Promotions is a company that I founded a few years ago. And our goal is to support indie authors in their creative journey from concept to publication and promotion with equitable mentoring, professional services, and enthusiastic advocacy for writers of every age, stage, and genre. I am absolutely over the top passionate about bringing you indie authors. I believe that they need as much or more support than trad authors. So that's my mission in life, and I'm really honored that I get to help Jacob. So this is Jacob, and this picture's almost a year old. This is when his son was really tiny. Jacob was born in 1988 and grew up a country boy in a small town. He learned to read at an early age and began his storytelling journey shortly after. He finished his first novel at the age of 8, and we'll talk about that, though it is yet to see the light of day, and we'll talk about why. Alongside his wife, daughter, and son, he continues to be a scatterbrain, which is so not true, and dreams of impossible things daily. He also achieves them daily, too. Book preferences tend to lean toward fantasy, horror, and lately, lit RPGs. Weird? I think not. I've read Jacob's work. It's not that weird. Reader, author, gamer, and nature enthusiast. And he's pretty fond of food, too, which I think is a good thing because food sustains life. So that's kind of important. Welcome, Jacob. I'm so glad you're here tonight.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
If anybody can't tell already, Jacob is one of my favorite people, and I adore his family. And more than anything, I love his writing. Jacob, I love what you bring to the page. I think you are thoughtful and creative and insightful in your writing, and I'm just thrilled to share you with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tonight, let's talk a little bit about your history first. So in your bio that I just read, we talked about that you started learning to read at an early age, started writing, and then at 8, you wrote your first novel. Tell us about that story, and then tell us why it hasn't been published yet.
Well, it comes from a 4-part series. It's called The Elderborn Saga. And I want to say, initially we started writing the book because my brother and I were just playing outside in the woods or wherever we ended up wandering to that day. And that was really a book kind of inspired from storytelling. So he's 5 years younger than I am. I tell him stories, keep him entertained. We play games. And eventually I just started writing the book down. It started out in kind of notebooks and, scrawled, could barely read my own handwriting. And then I want to say 15, maybe a little bit, 15, 16 years ago, I finally typed the book. And I've been kind of polishing it and editing it and improving it as I improve.
Awesome. That's great. So someday it may yet see the light of day?
It may.
That would be great. That would be really great. Give me an idea of how your story writing style, and I'm most intrigued about your world building style. How has that changed over the years? You have quite a number of books under your belt here, and we'll get to those toward the end. I'll show everybody the books, but you're writing it's 4 different series now. How do you see how your writing style has developed through all that time?
Um, I mean, I keep a lot of notes. That helps me keep things separated and straightened out and whatnot. But I also I like my visual cues.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually surrounded by props right now. So when I'm sitting and I'm actually addressing the page, I have different visual cues all around my office that I can peer to from time to time. I showed you a board game I'm working on. I have a beautiful tapestry sitting next to me that you can't see, but I haven't put it up yet.
So how's your writing? Would you say, I mean, we definitely know your writing has matured over the years. I've seen it just in the last few books that we've done together. You keep growing and your style just keeps getting more and more refined. What would you say was the biggest change in your writing style? Just let's say over writing the time that you wrote Amaranth Vale and Brothers Stryfe, just these 2 books that go in this series. How would you say that your style has changed just between the 2?
I try to describe what I see to my reader in as few words as possible. That's one thing I've really been working on. I know that's a tip from Stephen King's book on writing.
Yeah.
I know that's one area I've really been working on.
What do you say is the biggest thing that you struggle with?
Oof. Christian would probably text on here any minute now saying sticking with one project.
Yeah, some of us have that problem. But as far as the writing craft, what's the part that you struggle through the most? Is it dialogue, or is it world building? Is it transition? What's the thing that's most difficult?
I have a lot more difficulty writing in a modern setting than I do in a fantasy setting, or in a medieval setting, I should say.
Okay.
I know Blood in the Rain is particularly challenging for me to write in that space. I mean, as far as, world building, that's my whole genre. That's
yeah,
everything.
well, that's where your head lives. Yeah. So aside from the world building, because we already know you do that so very well, what would you say is the easiest part of your craft?
I think the easiest portion of my craft is kind of speaking from my character's standpoint. So understanding their voice and their multitude of voices. I want to say that's probably the easiest.
So you might go as far as calling yourself slightly schizophrenic because you hear the voices? Me too. Well, I think we've talked about it enough at this point. I would love to hear a piece from the Brothers Stryfe, if you could read for us, and then we'll reveal the cover and we'll talk some more. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic.
Okay, the floor is yours. Feel free to begin anytime you like. If you need to do a setup for this scene, feel free to do that, and then just read when you're ready.
All right. As instructed that evening at dinner, the 2 brothers stepped aside as the tables in the hall vanished. Next, Phillida waved her hands in a broad circle as she spoke words of power in a language Gale could not place. A large, icy blue rune appeared in the center of the room a moment later, and a frosty mist floated out of it. Raising trembling hands as though heaving a great burden, the headmistress summoned 12 wide columns of ice. Gale watched in awe as the columns reached towards the ceiling. He watched as the climbing pillars and the accompanying grinding noises ceased. The students stared silently at the 12 pillars, awaiting instructions. Slowly, some of the braver students stepped forward, Gale among them. Looking back, he looked to Tarkin, who nodded her head. Students, one by one, come forth. Step within the center of the icy mirrors. It is time to take your first steps towards fate's calling. Stepping aside to allow his eager classmates to rush ahead, he stared back towards his brother. The blond boy remained silent. Whether in awe of the magic or from the fear of what the divining might reveal, Gale did not know. The boy remained firmly planted near Rinoa, who looked frightened. Gale moved away from the line that had formed as Tarkin gave the other two a gentle prod. Glancing back and forth between her and the pillars, they walked slowly towards Gale. What do you look so worried about? Gale asked, nudging his brother while ignoring Renoa. You look as though you'd rather get back on the carriage than stand in front of some ice. I don't know, Gabriel groaned. I guess the thought of discovering my future scares me. It's not going to tell you the future. It's going to tell you all the things you could do with the abilities you have. Maybe he's afraid he won't live up to some expectations, Renoa suggested, her eyes focused ahead. You know, for someone who tries to be as lonesome and miserable as you seem to interject yourself into a lot of people's conversations, Gale said sourly. I didn't see you in much of a rush to get in line. Renoa's hands balled into tight fists as her cheeks, ears, and tip of her nose reddened. Some of us are already aware of our potential, she growled, marching away. Doing his best to ignore the young woman's unstable behavior, Gale turned back to his brother. If you want, I'll be first. As he spoke, bright lights emanated from the pillars. They both stared in awe until a moment later Klein stepped out, a broad smile on his face. I'm going to be a warlock, he declared, striking an awkward pose which made half of those present laugh. A second flash of light came a moment after, and Mari leapt out, a ridiculous victory pose of her own. Battle mage, she cried for the entire world to hear. One after another, the students took their turns. With few exceptions, no one else excitedly proclaimed what the pillars had shown, though many excitedly conversed with their friends afterwards. I think I'll go ahead, Gabriel murmured, swallowing the hard lump in his throat. Slapping his brother on the back, Gale watched the reluctant boy step inside. A smile crept across his face as he imagined the results of his brother's test. Already eager to discuss their profound futures together, he could hardly keep from showing annoyance when the boy's divining took far longer than the others. Hey, does it normally? His question was cut short by a bright burst of light as Gabriel resurfaced. Smiling, Gale approached his brother, who bore a harrowed expression. What is it? He asked. Didn't see what you wanted? A shake of his head the only response. Shrugging his shoulders, Gale moved to the columns. Stopping just before the structure, he looked back and saw Klein and Mari still goofing around. Laughing, he walked inside. Stepping within, he immediately found himself within a remarkable maze of mirrors. His reflection bounced from countless angles. He slowly moved towards a slightly raised platform at the center. Taking the 2 steps to the center of the room, he slowly spun himself in a circle. In front of him, he saw only himself a moment before the image began to change. A fully grown man stood before him, sad eyes staring at the blade of a well-worn sword wreathed in a red hue. He wore male armor with a crimson tunic and tan breeches. Looking at the man, he realized it was himself. The journey has been difficult and your trials many. You have walked a solemn path, and while none might ever thank you for the work you've done, you know in your heart you have done your best. The last man standing upon another impossible battle, none can deny your strength. As both the image and the voice faded, he stood at a loss. Turning about, he looked at the various other mirrors, looking for an answer to show itself. Brief glimpses of himself appeared in each. While the pictures each maintained the same style outfit as the image he had first seen, none of them were the least bit distinguishable. Peering at each reflection, he attempted to see what the fates had to say of his latent abilities. Stepping closer to another nearby mirror, he placed his hands to either side of the frame and stared deeply within. He could see his face clearly, though the rest of his body slowly shifted in and out of focus. He waited patiently, watching as the rest of his body finally came into view. His reflection smiled back at him and placed its hands against the glass. As the other him opened his mouth to speak, the mirror cracked and fell away. He heard the first mirror speaking to him once more, as the images on the rest of the mirrors grew increasingly blurry. As he moved to the next, the mirror broke before he had a chance to touch it. He stumbled backwards, hands brushing across the one mirror possessing a clear image. Again, something whispered to him from a distant place. Confusion ran through Gale's mind as he sought reason for what he had seen. A word came to his mind, spoken from the lips of the image. He attempted to speak the word himself, tasting it on the tip of his tongue. Young Gale, are you all right? He could hear Captain Tarkin. Looking up to face her, the word slipped from his tongue. Warden. The mirrors shined with a permeating light. He saw one thing before both he and his instructor were blinded. The shock on her face.
Well done. Yay! I absolutely love this book. it's hard for me to choose a favorite scene, although there is a scene in there that I do love most. It involves books and a library. No great secret that I'd be attracted to that scene. But I'm really pleased how you're following these characters in the story through, and I'm looking forward to the next book in this series. Are you ready to reveal the cover?
We can make them wait a little bit longer if you want.
Make them wait a little longer? Okay. All right. So let's talk about this book. It's actually a prequel, isn't it?
No, it takes place after Beyond the Amaranthine Veil.
No, that's true, it does. But it's kind of it almost happens in an overlapped time frame.
Yes. Beyond the Amaranthine Veil starts in the spring and ends in the winter. The Brothers Stryfe actually starts in the summer during that same time frame and ends in the spring of the following year.
Right. So we're following essentially three different main characters through their parallel journeys in this timeline, right?
Correct. And actually, Christian summarized it. She said it's a sister story.
It is. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. That's perfect, Christian. Yeah, it is a sister story. So why don't you, for everybody who hasn't read either book yet, and I know because this is a launch, we haven't seen Brothers Stryfe yet. Can you give us a synopsis of both and how they travel together to tell the story of these characters?
Yeah, I can do that without spoiling anything too severe.
Okay, great.
So Beyond the Amaranthine Veil, the main character is a gentleman named Tristan Stryfe. He appears to still be a younger man. You'll find out throughout the lore in either of the book, the people that are blessed by the Amaranthine, that's kind of their I guess their theological system, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are blessed by the Amaranthine tend to live longevitous lives. And you'll learn that as you read the books. But he's actually lived, a full career as a Templar, basically slaying monsters, mages, men, anything that's running amok. And he's decided that he wants to retire from that life. And in order to do so, he has to accept a final mission from the king of Altair, which is the kingdom where they live. Without spoiling too much, there's a lot of political issues involved with what his final mission is.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes very wrong. And I guess falling into the Brothers Stryfe, the Brothers Stryfe builds a lot on the lore that's established in Beyond the Amaranthine Veil. I kind of used the world building in Amaranthine Veil to kind of help reinforce the Brothers Stryfe so they could build upon it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then a lot of the political fallout that takes place in the first book, the children in the second book deal with the ramifications of that. So.
And these, just so everybody kind of understands the progression of these two stories together, the brothers, Gale and Gabriel, are sons to Tristan.
Yes.
So that's how that family connection is followed throughout these books. And I'm really interested to see what happens next, knowing how Brothers Stryfe ends. It ends in such a place where I was almost, I wouldn't say I was angry. I was just mildly irritated that I didn't know what was coming next, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing to have that feeling when you're done reading a book where, we've all seen the meme that says, you've just finished a book and you're completely crestfallen and the rest of the world doesn't understand why. That's kind of how I felt when I finished the Brothers Stryfe. I thought, oh, well, it actually took me 3 days to recover before I could start reading something else. So, so congratulations on that point.
Thank you. That's a great one.
Um,
To finish answering your question, I guess the Brothers Strife, it's about the sons of Tristan, but it's as they're going to school, and they are more or less disconnected from the outside world and the goings on in their father's storyline, which takes place during their own. And the only snippets they get of what's going on in the main part of the series is from letters from their caretaker, Rosalind,
mm-hmm.
and from the different pressures and different little factions within the school itself.
One of the things that I'm really curious about when I read both of these books, it caught me in both storylines, was your really wonderful attribution of the race of characters that you've created in this world. They're not all the same, but they're not all so dramatically different either.
No.
So what I'm curious about is how, when you were creating the world that these characters were going to fit in, how did you go about crafting those social structures that the different stratas of society fit into? Because there are different, I don't want to say hierarchies, but that's almost the right word. But there really are these different levels of people, and they all interact differently, though from my reading of it, without prejudice. So I'm wondering how you set that up to create these different layers of people, because when I write, I'm just writing about the people I know. I'm still working on how to write those different layers. So I'm wondering how you approached that.
Well, I mean, part of it is obviously, yes, I read a lot of different cultural histories. I read of different blended cultures. I really want to say that really it's my own ideology that kind of flows into it. It's the way I would like things to be, not necessarily what I've seen in other writings or what I've seen in other sources.
Or in real life, for that matter. Yeah. But that's one of the things that I want to acknowledge you for, is that I love the way that you create interactive yet still distinctive communities. I think you do that really, really well.
Thank you.
I want to talk about some of the other books that you've written, because I think people need to know about them. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I can figure out which button to push. And I really want to talk about the other books and the other series, because it's not just this one series that you've written. You've got 4 different series, and it looks like you're working on a 5th.
Yes, the Adaptables is separate, and technically the novella is sort of a series of its own. It's very similar in making to the Brothers Stryfe. But...
Okay. So can you give us first the kind of background setup story for the series Legends of Valeria?
Yeah. So Legends of Valeria, I'm not necessarily aggressively fanatical about D&D, but I do love it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of earlier D&D games and works in that nature, I definitely drew some inspiration from. I was watching probably a lot of Lord of the Rings when I first came up with the process of these books.
Okay.
And I just wanted to write something that was accessible to everyone, still told a compelling story. Sorry, I got asked about the Tumblr.
Yeah, there you go.
My mother-in-law made it for me. So.
That's awesome. So give us just a real quick synopsis of that series, Legends of Valoria.
Legends of Valoria it's a coming of age story about a young knight, Alec, whose home was taken from him 10 years prior to the beginning of the book. And he is trying to prove himself as an outsider. Basically, he's a refugee in another nation. He's trying to prove himself and be a symbol for his people in that fashion. And he's trying to kind of right some wrongs from the past while building towards the future, because he wants to eventually reclaim his home for what few members of his society are left. He meets a young woman along the way. Her name's Talia. She is a priestess who kind of works in the religious order in the book. And part of her ability is she kind of sees images of what's to come, not like a true seer, but similar. And she keeps finding different connections to this young man, Alec, in her visions. So she decides to kind of follow him around and see what's going on. I can't really say much else without spoiling anything for book one.
Okay. All right.
So
Awesome.
I have a lot of plot twists in that series.
So
Christian
how
has
is
punched me in the head more than once.
how is the Legends of Valoria series different from the Tales of Anon series, which we were just talking about with the new book? How do those two worlds differ?
Well, right off from the bat, you'll notice that Legends of Valoria is a very lighthearted world.
Okay.
The tone in general is it's very lighthearted. It's when there's a moment when maybe one of Christian's favorite characters dies, it comes as a shock to the reader. It seems totally out of place for a dark thing of that nature to happen in those books.
Okay.
Where Tales of Anon, that everybody's fair game. I mean, it's a much darker tone from page one.
Okay.
You know, going into it that, I mean, it comes off as an adult book, I guess is the way to put it, even though it's not. Just that it has a much more
yeah, and I think we need to clarify the difference between an adult book and a mature book, right?
Right.
So it's a book for grown-ups, not that it's rated R or X or anything like that, right? Yeah. So, but Legends of Valoria, I think, is written for perhaps younger adults, maybe new adults, because it's a little bit more lighthearted.
Right. It's a little
is
more
that
easily accessible.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back, and I want to share the screen one more time so people can again see the cover images. There we go. So talk about the Unbound series. I know we're skipping around on this list a little bit, but there's a method to my madness. So talk about Unbound. You've got Unbound and Betrayer, which is coming soon. I'm so excited about this book. So tell us a little bit about the Unbound series. Talk about Unbound, what the synopsis is for that storyline.
Okay. Well, Unbound comes from my love of Norse mythology, and I took some severe liberties. So
yeah, but everybody does.
Right. And I played around with it and made it my own. And
Norse mythology is so old, everybody takes liberties.
Long story short, young Viking Vali and his sister Asta, they appear under mysterious circumstances one night as infants, and they are raised among other Viking warriors. And years down the road, Vali becomes a captain of his own ship, and he's sailing out to kind of scout out these islands in search of an enemy threat that they're afraid is going to attack their borders.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout that process, he begins to learn that things aren't always as they seem, and just because one sect of people have been a generational enemy for hundreds of years doesn't mean that either side really has any desire to fight anymore. And kind of the reasons for why this war has been going on for generations become clouded, and he ends up finding himself stranded in enemy territory and has to kind of join hands with who he thought was his enemy in order to survive. If I had to kind of summarize it in a brief little snippet, I would say it's Princess Mononoke meets Dances with Wolves.
That's accurate. One of the things, again, that I love what you did with Unbound is that layering of societies, that layering of different races or clans of people, and how you have them interact and how you have them learn a new understanding of each other. And what one of the other things that really stands out for me a lot in Unbound was the way you treated the passage of time. In many books, it's, you know, the sun rose and the sun set and another day, right? Or, you know, I watched the hands on the clock tick by. You handle time in this book in a completely different way. And I'd like to have you talk about where you got the idea to do this, because you show the passage of time through the perceptions of characters and how they are learning. What made you figure out how to reverse engineer that?
Well, I was writing the book and I was doing all the typical things, and you know, I was sitting at my desk and grumbling about all the typical things. I don't like those typical things. It's really, it became sitting down, it's like, okay, I'm just going to write the passage as I feel it needs to be written, and I'm just going to throw away everything that irritates me, and kind of reworking that and tearing through it. Say, okay, well, how else can I show this? They don't have clocks, they don't have cell phones, they don't have any of these modern guides to go by. How could I show that it's been a season? How could I show it's been a few days?
And the old tropes are just...
I think I lost you for a minute there.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just, I wanted to do something new, a new mechanic that I had not seen before. And that's at one point in time, I think it doesn't show up till Betrayer. They actually measure the hours left in the day based upon hand positions. They use their positioning of their hands to trace up to the sun to see how much time is left in the day. And that's
awesome.
That's an old technique. That's something that was done a long time ago.
But I think it's something that's been forgotten, and I think that's why it feels so new, is because a passage of time, the way you write it, it may be old and, you know, ingrained in mythology or ingrained in indigenous tribes, but we don't realize that anymore. We've kind of, yeah, and we've taught past it, right? We're teaching how to tell time with other devices or other technologies or other techniques, and we've kind of forgotten those old ways. And I think it's fabulous that you're reminding readers that there are other ways to notice time. I'm really, really happy about it. I was so taken with it when I first read Unbound. I remember going back and reading those particular pages like 2 and 3 times just to go, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to the details. I need to see how he did this. It was just really a delight to read.
Thank you. A lot of fun with that book.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to read, and it's not a thin book either. It's like 450 pages, something like that. I have it up on my tall shelf up there, but yeah, it's a great story, but it doesn't drag and it doesn't weigh down the reader. It's really, really enjoyable to read it. We are currently working on bringing Betrayer, which is the next book in that series, to the world. Can you give us just a little hint of what it's about without giving away too much? I mean, I know that's a challenge, but...
Well, one of my goals with the Unbound series was to kind of summarize the book in the title. And I've been very diligent about making sure that my title for this series in particular is only one word. So I have the one-word title for 4 books already ready to go. And I'm more or less fitting the plot to summarize that word. And there are a lot of connections made out of circumstance in Unbound. People have to pull together in order to survive. And not all of them are going to make it out in Betrayer. Hence the title.
Right.
I'd also like to note that I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. I love romance stories. from a different sense than a romance novel. I know it's kind of weird, but I hate love triangles. I despise them. Betrayer was kind of my way of having a quote unquote love triangle that wasn't necessarily about other people. It was more about how these people interact and how these people are and who they are with other people that they interact with. I want it to be about something that's not about for shallow reasons. Usually when I read different romance novels or I see a romantic movie, I see a lot of shallow excuses for the way things progress.
Right.
Yeah,
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that you do really well. I think, especially in Unbound, is you're very adept at showing these characters on a more insightful, intrinsic kind of nature, rather than that superficial, what we expect people will do is what they will do. You delve more into the introspection of the character. And especially with language, I think you do that really well in Unbound, that you show depth of character in the way that different tribes handle language. And I think that's just fascinating stuff. I just really love it. There's you're not allowed to stop writing anytime soon, because I'm not done reading you yet. So
I'll keep going.
as long as you understand where we sit, okay? And then the last series I want to talk about, and then we're going to have to reveal the cover because it's getting late.
All right. That's fair.
I want to talk to everybody about this last series, which is Blood in the Rain. And you have 2 books out now in the Blood in the Rain series. And these are very different. I mean, I think all 4 of the series are very different. I think that I don't think there's any overlap between the series. I think they're all very distinctive in their storytelling. But I think Blood in the Rain especially. So can you give us a little synopsis of this series?
Yeah. It's debatable who you really want to call the main character. I like to think that Harley's the main character. And more or less, she's gone to a place where the city is ran by creatures of the supernatural world, vampires, werewolves. They got their fingers in everything. They're in politics. They're in the inner workings of the city. And she's come to this place looking for her sister. She kind of has a prejudice against the supernatural world from her life experiences, and she's pretty much there to go to war. Is kind of her attitude. It just so happens that the person that she encounters who is the most likely and most able to help her is a sin eater. He's several hundred years old, and he is very much a part of the supernatural world. And he hails from a long line of hunters that, without getting into the debate and the theology and everything,
right,
he descends from a clan of hunters that were connected to the church hundreds of years ago, and he's continuing the work that they did then. So instantly, that's not a great connection. They hate each other from day one.
right.
And really, Christian and I started penning the concept of this book together. This is more her type of book than it is my type of book. And then this one definitely is an adult book. It was the very first definitely adult book that I've ever written, and I wrote it on a bed. So
okay.
Christian didn't think I could do it. So, yeah.
Well, but obviously you like the idea because you've written 2 books in the series so far.
Oh, I've got several more already planned.
That's, yeah.
The novella directly, all right, it's a spoiler, but the novella directly connects to this series in some way, shape, or fashion.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, perfect. I'm thrilled with the diversity of your work. If anybody, well, Christian, you lost the bet and you're mad. Okay. I'm not mad because he wrote these great books, so it's okay. I love the diversity of your writing and how you're bringing so much of your imagination to the page. And what I find ultimately fascinating, as I do with everybody, is your process. You're a longhand writer.
Primarily, yes.
Yeah,
I've been a lot more on the computer since I have my own space now, but
I've
do like my
seen
pen.
you sit at a table and write longhand. And
Yes.
I find that fascinating because it's something that I have long grown out of the practice of doing. How many file cabinets have you got?
This one so far. I've got another one here and another one over there, but I haven't filled them yet.
Okay, so they're waiting. Well, you've got more books to write, so it's okay. All right, do you think maybe we can show them the cover and give away some stuff? How does that sound?
They waited long enough. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
the chat's kind of quiet. I don't know if they're ready for
it. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I know you guys have been listening to Jacob tell his story and listening to us talk about process. If anybody has any questions in the chat, see, this is one of my biggest problems. I get so involved in talking with authors that I forget there's other people in the room because I'm having such a good time having the conversation. So if anyone in the chat has questions or comments, we'd be happy to field those now. And again, I mean, you've been watching me gush for nearly an hour now, so you know that I love this work. So I can't recommend the books highly enough. It goes without saying, I think, at this point. Okay. So while you guys are coming up with your ideas for questions, we're going to show you the cover and we're going to talk a little bit about the illustrator. Are you ready, Jacob?
Yes, I'm ready.
Let's do this thing. Okay. I wish I had a snare drum so we could do a drum roll. But... So there it is. There's the cover reveal for the Brothers Stryfe. And I love the artwork on this cover because it directly connects to one of the pivotal scenes that nobody sees coming in the book, which is fabulous. I love this. And I love how you were able to convey the scene to your artist. So tell us a little bit about your cover artist and how you guys come about creating the concepts for your covers, because all of the covers for your books are very intricate and very detailed. So what's that process like? Well,
my artist's name is Susan, just for reference sake. And she's become very, very good at deciphering my stick figures and my scribbles.
Okay.
And if I had to describe an average color cover, usually it's a blob. And then I write in the blob kind of what I see. And usually I try to take a climactic scene from the book. And I really spend a significant amount of time, eyes closed, laying on the lounge, couch, whichever. And I really try to ingrain an image into my mind of what that scene looks like. And then I do it. I take out a 9.5 by 11. I start blobbing things and I write little descriptions. And I try to be as detailed in my little block images as I can be. As much as I see and can transcribe to paper, the better Susan can work with what I need. And then even sometimes I'll go through and I'll find images on the internet and I'll go into the Paint app and I'll blob them kind of all over the place where I want them to be. And then I'll go through and if I have to print it out, I'll print it out and I'll scribble over it on top of that. And sometimes it's multiple layers of me scribbling over blobs and trying to describe them to her. She'll send me images back and forth, like, yeah, that's what I want. And then I'll go to her image and I'll add a text box and I'll try to describe. It's like, okay, well, I like this, but change this, or scratch out the wolf's eye and make it red, or do this, and it's so it's a
lot like criminal sketch artistry. You describe and she draws, and then she kind of plays with it and morphs it as you describe more.
Yep. Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. Luba would like to know, she says, I know you were very interested in your daughter's writing. Were your parents supportive of you as well?
Yeah, I would say they were supportive of my writing. Actually, my mother's the one that held on to all my notebooks that I later used to type the book into my laptop. So I would have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I know that they're very supportive of your work. They're following you on Facebook and they share your stuff all the time. And so I think it's awesome. You have a great set of cheerleaders within your immediate circle of family and friends. And I think that's awesome. And your daughter being an author herself, I'm calling her an author because I know she's going to get there.
Oh, she's going to get
there. You know, we talked before on the TV show about how writing really is a family activity for all of you. Christians involved, Ash is involved. You all kind of do this together as a family, and I think it's just absolutely fabulous. Ash says she wants to know, when did you start writing?
When did I start writing? I mean, I had the first book done around the age of 8. So I want to say probably around 7 years of age is when I really started.
So right around Ashland's age.
I started as a plotter. I won't lie.
And then somehow you lost your way, Jacob.
No, I sent you an outline the other day, and that's
I know,
and
I'm sending you notes. I'm very impressed. I'm sending you notes. I'm very impressed. But yeah, I know. We all know my thoughts on platter versus pantser. So there you go. I love you just the same. It's okay. Erica says she loves the cover. Luba wants to know, did you always plan on independent publishing, or did you have ideas about going into traditional publishing? Was there a pull that pulled you one direction or another?
Yeah, I did not. I mean, I still plan on maintaining independence, but having maybe one series here or there traditionally published. I am in the process of trying to find an agent for the Adaptables. It's my superhero spy thriller.
Okay.
I am trying to find an agent for that currently. It's not connected to any of my other books, but if you could pursue something with unlimited potential and unlimited resources, whether it was self-publishing or traditional publishing, why would you choose to limit yourself? I guess is kind of my thinking.
Absolutely.
I mean, yes, that's what's taking me towards the traditional route with the Adaptables. I want to see what that would do on a broader market. But at the same time, I write my stories because I want to tell them. I don't want to tell somebody else's story. I want to tell the story that I wrote. So, yeah, self-publishing is the way to do that.
Well, and I think your point is very valid. Is that I think your point's valid about you need to try to dip your toes into various ponds to see which one feels best. You know, I think that's very valid. So Marianne wants to know, do you identify with one character over the others? Do you write yourself into any of your characters? And do you have a favorite series? So there's 3 great questions there for you.
Realistically, I feel a personal connection with each and every one of my characters. Christian can kind of back me on this one. I have a bit of a ritual every time one of my characters dies. And yes, it's, you know, it does. It feels like I'm saying goodbye to a dear friend when that happens. Even though I knew it was going to happen from page 1, it's a hard goodbye.
Sure.
So the vast majority, excuse me, especially all of my main characters, definitely have quite a bit of myself in them. I know. Oh, she's going to get me on that one. As far as my favorite series, so far I've had the most fun with Unbound.
Okay. That's very awesome because, yeah, Unbound. Yeah. I love, I can't give it away, but I love all the great characters and all the great extras that you put into the book. I'm in love with that book. Okay. Christian wants to know, you know, and you know the answer to this, but okay. Where do you get your inspiration for your more light-hearted comedic moments?
So I'm a bit of a pain in the neck and constantly pulling shenanigans on my wife Christian. And it's, I mean, our banter sessions are long and epic, and I could fill a book just with those. I can't think of a single book that I've written so far that hasn't had at least one inside joke between the two of us inside it.
I think that's a great way to maintain a strong marriage.
Thank you. Well, and also from a logical standpoint, it helps me stay connected to my characters. I'm very engrossed and invested. It's my life is part of their experiences, whether they know it or not. I know the first one that comes to mind off the top of my head would be in the adaptables, would be Rath's severe aversion to tomatoes. That's definitely a real life moment there. The only thing I won't eat.
Very cool. I want to show everybody the screen with the covers again, just because I love the art. And I want everybody to really see the covers and burn them into their imagination so that they can go find them on Amazon and order these books. Whether you go Kindle in ebook or whether you go paperback, I highly recommend this series. Here's the other thing that I want to say about these books. Because, as Christian said, the books in this series especially are sister books. I believe, and Jacob, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe you could read them as standalones. You don't have to necessarily read them in the order that you've written them.
Correct. And that really was the goal for this series, was that they could be read standalone. And it's a comparative to real life, and we can get into that in another author conversation, but I wanted it to be where you could experience the entire series from one perspective or the other, but the whole process is so much more enjoyable when you understand both sides of the story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the reason that I like that they're sister stories and that they're standalones is that I don't have to worry about, you know, I told you when we first met, one of my biggest frustrations is reading series work because I don't want to read them out of order.
Right.
You know, so I love the way you write because I don't have to worry about reading them out of order. I just grab the book and read it. So I'm really excited. I'm thrilled for your book release. I can't tell you how honored I am that you chose me to work with you on these. I can't wait for Betrayer to be released and we can do this all over again. I'm so excited.
Liking it so far?
I am. I'm really enjoying it. It's really, really nice. I love your imagination. I love where your brain goes. I love all the idiosyncrasies that you write into characters and into world building. And they're just details that in so many cases I never even imagined. So you're constantly pulling new things to show me, and I've been at this game for a while. So I'm just so pleased that we're able to work together. It's just an honor for me. So thank you very, very much.
Oh, no, thank you.
How about we give some stuff away? What do you think?
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I like the whole giveaway. Everybody loves giving away stuff.
Everybody likes free stuff.
Yeah, everybody likes free stuff. So on the spinning wheel of happiness tonight, we are giving away 3 pretty snazzy prizes. We are giving away a Blood in the Rain t-shirt, and we are giving away 2 paperback copies of the Brothers of Stryfe, which is the brand new book. So super cool. And they will be autographed. Jacob will send them to you direct, and you'll be able to get them autographed, and he'll do the whole thing. So we're going to give away those 3 prizes. So I will spin the wheel 3 times, and we'll give stuff away. So here we go. Okay, just as a precursor, Ashlyn, I love you, darling, but if you win something tonight,
You're getting an
Your
ice
dad's
cream.
gonna take you out for ice cream instead. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Let's share the spinning wheel screen. Okay, can you see it, Jacob?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I don't know if you'll be able to hear music. I did attach music to it, but we'll see what happens. So we're gonna give away a free T-shirt. Here we go. Can you hear music?
I cannot.
Oh, bummer. I don't know why that did that. So Luba, congratulations. You won a Blood in the Rain T-shirt. It's really super snazzy. It's got, hold on, Jacob. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, show it to us again.
All right, show it to you again.
Okay, so there's the front. And there's the back. And the artwork, seeing it on the screen just doesn't do it justice. It's very, very, very cool. It's super neat. So Luba, congratulations. You won a T-shirt. And I don't know what happened to my music. There was music on here. Okay. I think it has to do with my new headset. I think that's the thing. I got a new headset, and I think I got to troubleshoot that a little bit. So let's take a look. We're going to give away a copy of the book, The Brothers Stryfe. Here we go. And we're going to spin the wheel and see who wins. And Andrew sings and I don't sing. So congratulations, Diana Duell. She's awesome. She's like the world's most supportive indie author person ever. So congratulations, Diana. You get a copy of the Brothers Stryfe autographed by Jacob Bullen. Yay! So much fun. Okay. And then Luba, great. I'm glad you can use the T-shirt. That's awesome. And it's really super soft material too, so you're gonna love it. Okay, so we are gonna give away one more copy of the Brothers Stryfe. Diana, are you in the room? Did she not make it? I'm not sure if she made it or not.
I don't see her on the list.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, well, we're gonna give it away again. Okay. Because Diana's not here, so we'll give it away again. She's gonna be bummed that she missed it though. Okay, so let's spinny wheel again. I really gotta fix the music on it. There we go. Spinning and spinning and spinning, and I'm not singing. Oh, Ashlyn almost. Okay, Erica. Yay! You get a copy of the Brothers Stryfe. Congratulations. Yay! Okay, Erica. Yay! Aren't you glad you figured out the password now? See, sometimes it's a good thing. Okay, one last time we're gonna share our screen and give away another book. Spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And yay, Michael. Michael Schwartz. Woohoo! Michael is a new author. We're working on putting together his collection of short stories right now, which is super fun. So congratulations, Michael. You're gonna love this book. It's so absolutely awesome. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do I get this amazing prize that I just won tonight? Well, here's how you're going to get it. Let me show you the screen again. There it is. See that email address? jabullen.com. On Jacob's website, he has a contact form where you can send him messages. Tonight, before midnight, you're going to send Jacob a message through his website, and you're going to say, hey, Jacob, I won free stuff at your book launch. And you're going to send him your mailing address. And then he will contact you to see how you want the book inscribed, and then he'll mail it out to you. And Luba, my guess is he'll probably find a Sharpie and sign your T-shirt if you want him to do that too. Okay. So again, before midnight tonight, please jump on Jacob's website at jabullen.com and send him a note reminding him that you won. So, wow, this has been an awesome night. Thank you ever so much, Jacob, for your time. I'm so appreciative. I'm so honored. It's so awesome. This has just been so much fun. I just want to let everybody know before we go real quick, we are hosting another summer extravaganza thing. I don't know why I started doing this, but I'm having so much fun doing it, I'm not going to stop. So we're doing virtual book festivals 3 times a year. The next one comes up in June. It's the Summer Reading Regatta. These are a list of participating authors. I think we have 55 on the list now. So you can come to pagespromotions.com to get all the details. You can follow us on our Facebook page and stay connected to the authors. We're going to be giving away books with the Spinny Wheel of Happiness every night in the month of June. You're going to be able to hear 55 different authors talk about their work, read from their books. We're going to give away, I have over 120 books right now on my desk to give away, and they're not all here yet.
You got another one for me tomorrow.
Holy moly. Okay. So join us, come back again in June. Come back next week where we're featuring another author in a reading event for him next Friday, Donnie Winter. So join us for that. Tell your friends and family. This replay is going to be on, the link will be on Facebook to our YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. So unless anybody has any more questions tonight for us, we're going to let Jacob get back to his family. So thank you so much for your time, sir. I'm so appreciative. I'm so honored. I'm so glad that we've become friends, and I'm really looking forward to Betrayal coming out very shortly. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.